Hi everyone, this is Carol Ann Speaks, the State of Our World, on Friday, March 19th, 2021. So what is it? Good, bad, or indifferent? Well, probably all three. The coronavirus is still with us. We have about 29 U.S. cases about right now. We have about 540,000 fatalities from this virus right now. And today, we had 60,000 new cases and 16,000 new fatalities. Now, there was a hearing in Congress about the virus and also Asian anti-Asian hate crimes. And the hearing about the virus, we had a Republican Senator, Rand Paul of Kentucky, complaining to Dr. Fauci that why do people have to wear masks once they've been vaccinated? Well, if you have 60,000 new cases in one day and 16,000 new fatalities in one day, and you have 29 million people, cases, who have the virus or have had the virus, and you still have people in the hospitals being treated for the virus. Don't you think it's best to take all precautions? Even though you've been vaccinated, there are new variants out there. We don't know yet if the vaccines we have are effective against the current strain and new variants that will come along. Because we do not have a robust system for tracing new variants and making sure that we are taking care of everyone. Under the Obama administration, we had that, and then Trumpy scrapped everything, all the work, all the protocols. And now we have this Republican senator from Kentucky, Rand Paul, who had paraded around the U.S. Senate not wearing a mask, refusing to wear a mask. He had the virus. He supposedly recovered. He's been vaccinated, and now he complains that he has to wear a mask. Isn't that really terrible that he talks like that? You have to encourage the people in the country to do the right thing, and he's encouraging the people to do the wrong thing, like him. So, Rand Paul, you're supposed to be a doctor. I don't believe it. I think doctors supposed to, their mission is to do no harm, and you're doing a lot of harm. So I do hope that you will leave the Congress, the Senate soon. Maybe you'll get the virus and end up on a ventilator, and then you'll know, get the virus again. Because once you have the virus, you can get it again. And there are a lot of vulnerable people out there who haven't had the virus and are taking care of themselves. But we have this idiot in the Senate who doesn't care. So, what about that? Now, we also had hearings in the House about hate crimes, and we have this congressman from New York, somewhere in New York, I don't know where, who thinks that the having a hearing about hate speech is infringement on his free speech rights. He's from Texas, and he told a story about in Texas we look for the tallest tree to hang people on. And he's in the U.S. House. He must have a delightful um, constituency if they elected him to be a U.S. House representative. Very, very sad. So I hope he gets the virus and ends up on a ventilator. Then maybe he'll learn. But who knows? Uh, we just don't know. People are strange. Now, we have, what I want to say. Um, in the Senate today, one of our newly elected senators from Georgia, Reverend Raphael Warnock, he's a Democrat and also a minister at a church in Atlanta, and he gave his first Senate speech about the GOP assault on voting rights. It appears that after President Biden won the election and Georgia now has two Democratic senators because there were runoff elections. Now, Georgia and other states are trying to roll back the rights of people to vote. They're trying to put restrictions on absentee voting, voting ID to vote, cutting back on hours for early voting, for absentee voting, all kinds of things. It's not just in Georgia. There are about 40 some odd states that are trying to do this. Now we have 50 states, and it's hard to believe we had 40 plus states that are trying to roll back voting rights. But we have a president and the Democratic constituency in the Senate and the House are determined to pass laws that make it easier to vote, not harder. So I'm with them. I support them totally. If you're in a true democracy, everybody gets to vote. You can have a voting age, but everyone at that age gets to vote, and there should be no restrictions on people who are in jail or have served their time or they're out now. Everybody has the right. Everybody who's a citizen has a right to vote. So I'm hoping that these laws get passed. It'll be probably necessary to change the nature of the filibuster because that can keep the minority from exercising their minority rights at the expense of the majority. So hopefully the filibuster will go. It should have gone a long time ago. Okay. Now, there's also another, there's an author, Heather McGhee, has spoken about how racism undercuts the American dream for everyone. Because if you want to prevent people from voting who are African American and poor, you're also affecting the rights of your constituents who are white and poor. So racism is very bad. And right now we have a lot of racism actions taken against people who appear Asian or of Asian descent, mainly because when the coronavirus came here, Trump, the president at the time, said it's the China virus, the Kung Fu virus, the virus from China. You should have called it the Trump virus. It was his responsibility to protect the people once the virus got here instead of saying it's fake news and it's a hoax and it's going to go away, it's just the flu. But he has repeatedly made terrible statements about China and Chinese people, and a lot of people don't know the difference between someone who is Chinese or Japanese or Korean or Filipino, and they just assumed everyone who looks Asian, I'm not sure what Asian is supposed to look like, is responsible for the virus being here, but they're not. Now, in order to be fair, during World War II, which Japan was out to colonize Asia, control Asia. They say they didn't have enough room for all their people. And they treated the people of Asia, the countries they conquered, terribly. Human rights abuses, all kinds of things, horrible, horrible things. So I don't know if that was Japan. So I don't know. We can't blame the current Asians for what past Asian peoples did. Also, in this country, we had put people of Chinese descent on the West Coast in detention camps after Pearl Harbor was bombed by Japan. Now, I don't know. I don't get it. You can't blame all the people for the action of a few. The Then during the Vietnam War, and in the 60s and I guess the 50s and the 60s and the 60s and the 70s, Chinese nation at the time was helping the Vietnamese people. So they've all had human rights abuses, and our country detained people who were good citizens because they were Japanese, and they thought they were going to be like a help the Japanese to conquer the U.S. Of course, that didn't happen. And then we had the state of Hawaii It was when it became it's there were a lot of Japanese people living in Hawaii uh, that helped to the agriculture, and they were not treated very well uh, when they were trying to exercise their rights. The people who built the railroads in the U.S., the intercontinental, they came to San Francisco, and they were faced a lot of discrimination in San Francisco. Actually, the people who built the railroads, they wanted the Chinese laborers to come over here, do your work, and then go home. But they had been living here for a while and they decided to stay, so they faced a lot of discrimination. So we have a country that's been very discriminatory against those who they call the other. Very bad. We have to get along. We have one world to live in. We have a climate crisis that is going to kill all of us uh, if we don't start doing something. So you can't hate everybody. Um, you can't hate all the Japanese for what they did in World War II. You can't hate all the Chinese for what they did in the Vietnam War. And you can't you can't just hate. You have to give people a chance. The people who came over here from Europe as immigrants, the ones like when the Irish came over here, they're escaping Ireland, terrible conditions, and the British controlled Ireland. They controlled England, Scotland, Wales, and Ireland, and then they created a country, kind of a sub-country called Northern Ireland. And that's where the uh, non-Catholic Irish settled, and the Irish Republic was did have a lot of Catholic people, but they had a lot of Protestant people who came in from England. So very bad situation. And my family came here from Hungary, and they went through Ellis Island, and they faced a lot of discrimination from the Irish police officers. So everybody seems to hate everybody, but you shouldn't hate anybody. You should like people. You should love people, and find out what their story is and tell them your story. Now, I was involved in interfaith dialogue about the um, Israeli Palestinian conflict as for about 10 years, and I faced a lot of threats. People demonized me because I thought that Arab peoples were okay, uh, Palestinian people are okay. Palestinians are Arabs, but they can be Christian or they can be Muslim. And when Israel became a state in 1948, they wanted everyone out who wasn't a Hebrew. And they did terrible things to the Arab villages that were there at the time. So everybody has had things, actions they have to atone for. And right now, because of the coronavirus and former President Trump's rhetoric and actions, everyone is blaming the Chinese, and it's not their fault. I guess collectively it's all our fault for our policies and our hatred. Now, I think maybe it's time for a little music and talking for a while. Okay, the song I'd like to sing today, which I did a few days ago, it's called The Water is Wide. I think it's a Welsh song. It's very pretty. Oh, the water is wide, I cannot cross over, and neither have I wings to fly. But give me a boat that can carry two, and both shall row, my love and I. I leaned my back up against an oak. I thought it was a trusty tree, but first it bended and then it broke, as did my false lord to me. Oh, love is sweet and love is fair, fair as the dew when first it is new, but love grows old and waxes cold and fades away like the morning dew. Okay, that was The Water's Wide. I hope you liked it. Thank you for listening today. Thank you for tuning in to Carolyn Speaks State of the World on Friday, March 19th, 2021. I hope you're back with us again tomorrow. And remember to wear that mask, practice social distancing, only socialize with those in your immediate household. And remember, kindness goes a long way. Thank you very much. Hope to see you tomorrow. Good night. Stay safe.